Welcome to the reading of Just Gone by William Kowalski. This book is published by Rapid Reads. This is the Brampton Overdrive online ebook version. So let us start. Just Gone. Also, it is by William Kowalski. You can check out his other books like The Barrio Kings, The Way It Works, Something Nobles, Eddie's Something South of Here, The Adventure of Flash Jackson, The Good Neighbor, and The 100 Hearts. Let us begin. This is copyright 2013 by William Kowalski. So this is to Linda, con gratitude. Chapter 1. I used to work at this shelter downtown. It was a place for men and children who were having a rough time. We didn't allow men inside. Don't get me wrong, I got nothing against men in general. It's just that in my line of work, I didn't meet too many good ones. The good men mostly stayed away from our place. They had business elsewhere, I guess. I used to hope I would meet a good man. In fact, I longed for it, but not for the reasons a woman normally does. I didn't need any doings with men. It might be fun and games for a while, but when a woman spends enough time with a man, she ends up with a child. There were already enough children in the world who had no one to take care of them and nowhere to go. And there were enough women who got left high and dry. I did not want to be one of those. So I gave up my life to help women and their kids instead. Mostly the kids. I decided a long time ago that it was my mission in life to pick up where other people left off. That was my real purpose. To take care of the little ones who could not take care of themselves. Saturday nights at the shelters were always crazy. I worked the door. When you work the door, you have to be on your toes. You never know who's gonna come walking in, or who's gonna be following them. Sometimes a lady might show up with a black eye and crying baby. A few minutes later, the man who gave her both might walk in, demanding to see her. I do not believe in violence, but I kept a cosh under the counter, just in case someone showed up who did. This cosh was a piece of plastic pipe about 1.5 feet long. It was full with BBs and sealed at both ends. I had the janitor of my building make it for me on the sly. Sometimes I used it to persuade people to see things my way. For a small woman, I could swing that thing pretty good. One Saturday night, a long time ago, a teenage girl and a little boy came in. You couldn't tell at first if they were brother and sister or mother and son. I remember the boy for two reasons. One, that he was covered in rat bites. They were fresh too. You tend to remember that kind of thing. The other reason I remember the boy is because he was one of the most beautiful children I'd ever seen. All kids beautiful to me. But this little one seemed to glow. It was like he had some kind of special light in him. It took one look at his bites and decided that I was not going to bother with the paperwork. No way. You gotta get him to a hospital, I told the girl. She was maybe 14. He was maybe 7. They were both so thin. They looked like they just crawled out of some concentration camp. The little boy was wearing shorts and sneakers. Nothing else. No shirt, no socks. There were bites on his stomach and arms. There was another one on his right cheek that I could tell was going to scar up bad. And he had other scars that were not rabbit bites. It looked to me like the boy had been hurt more than once in his short life by people who were big enough to know better. But if he was in pain, he gave no sign of it. Nothing was going to dim his light. We can't go to no hospital, the girl told me. She mumbled so hard I could hardly hear her. They're gonna split us up. What do you mean? I asked her. They already tried once to take him away. They ain't taking him again. Who is this boy to you? He is my brother, the girl said. Where's your mama at? Gone. Gone where? Just gone, said the girl. Some folks at the shelter did things by the book. When we got a new intake, I was supposed to get her name and address, if she had one, plus some other information. But this time I did what I just needed to be done. I took them back into the bathroom, and I sat the little boy on the sink. I got the first aid kit and took out the disinfectant. He didn't make a peep when I started washing his bites. His sister stood there and watched. Those bites are dirty, I told her. He might have rabies. What's that? Girl, I said, are you serious? Rabies is a disease. Rats got it, and they can give it to people. You want your bear to get sick? He needs a shot. He needs to be seen by a doctor. Jacky Wacky ain't gonna let me get no rabies, said the little boy. You shut up about that, said his sister. Jacky who? I said. Jacky Wacky, said the boy. The magic man who looked out for us kids. He's always talking about Jacky Wacky, said the girl. He's crazy. I ain't crazy. You crazy for not believing in him, said the boy. Now you just stop it, I said. We don't allow bad talk here, only nice talk. What are all your names? Shante, said the girl. Jamal, said the boy. Well, Shante and Jamal, you can call me Mother and Jilly. You two come out here. I'm gonna give this boy a shirt out of the donation box, and I'm gonna get you something to eat. You hungry? They looked at each other all big-eyed. I don't know why I even bothered asking. They were always starving when they came to that door, every single one of them. Come on, I said. I found a t-shirt that fit the boy. I had the number 11 on it. Then I went back into the kitchen and got two meals out of the fridge. There was nothing more than bologna sandwiches, a bag of chips, a juice box on a styrofoam plate. Shante and Jamal looked at me like I delivered a four-course meal. They sat at one of the tables and ate everything in about 2 seconds. Meanwhile, I left the front door unattended, which I was not supposed to do, so I went back and sat there in case anybody came in. I had every intention of calling the paramedics to have them come look at the boy, but I got distracted when someone else showed up. It was a woman in tears. She was followed by a few later by her boyfriend. He was all hopped up on something and feeling mean. Things got crazy for a while. I had to dial those three magic numbers, 911. After the cops came and took him away, I remember Shantae and Jamal. I looked for them, but they were gone. They must have slipped out in all the confusion. There's nothing I can do, so I said a little prayer for them, and I do for all the little ones who are lost in this world. And then I forget about them. Don't think less of me for that. It wasn't because I didn't care. It was just that there were so many kids like them out there. I can only do so much. The rest of it I was going to give up to a higher power. Nothing else I can do. That was chapter 1, which ends on page 12. Welcome back to the RSESL Adults or Golden Oaks reading for Just Gone by William Kowalski, chapter 2. Let us begin. This is on page 13 out of 65 of the Brampton Overdrive ebook version. I wouldn't be telling you this story if I didn't see those two again, but I might be telling some other story about wayward souls who came through that door. I got plenty of stories. For almost 40 years, that shelter was my life. I heard more stories than I want to tell, and I have more things that I wanted to see. I'm retired now. Retirement means I only work 5 days a week instead of 7. I got to slow down. My bones are getting creaky. A lot of time has passed, but sometimes I think about Shante and Jamal, especially when I hear his name mentioned in the books, in the stories of the shelter children. Even now, years later, they still talk about him. After that first night, I didn't think I was gonna see them again, but they were back the very next day. This time, I made them sit down and tell me everything they could about themselves. They didn't want to give anything up. At first, I thought they were being cagey with me, but soon enough, I realized that they didn't know very much about who they were. What's your last name? I asked them. We were sitting at one of those rickety old shelter tables. Jamal just shrugged his shoulders. Shantae looked embarrassed. Well, come on, I said. It's not rocket science, is it? Don't worry, I'm not going to tell on you. You haven't done anything wrong, have you? It's no crime to be poor. What's your family name? Our mama always kept changing her name, said Shantae. I don't remember which one was the real one. Besides me and Jamal, we got different daddies. All right, I said. We'll just put Doe. I guess you probably don't know your social number, huh? 7, said Jamal. No, that's how old you are, I said. Listen, forget about all this government stuff. Can you tell me about what happened to your mom? I done told you, lady, said Jamal. That Jacky Wacky got her. Don't you get mouthy, young man, I told him. We speak with respect around here, got it? Yes, ma'am, he said. Our mama dead, said Shantae. That's what he means. Oh dear, I'm sorry, I said. How did that happen? Bullet came through the window, said Shante. She had to say it 4 times before I could hear her. She had a habit of talking to her shoes. I got it out of her little by little. It was a sad story, but not an unusual one. They lived in the worst part of town. Or did. Until one day, when there was a shootout in the city street across their apartment. Gangbangers trying to do each other in. Turned out the poor woman was just watching television when she got hit by a stray bullet. The kid came out into the living room in the morning and found her dead on the couch. When was this? I said. I don't know, said Shante. Maybe 4, 5 days ago. Isn't there anybody who can take you in? No family? No friends? They're all just gone, said Shante. Well, what did the police say? I asked them. Once again, those kids just looked at each other. Jamal edged closer to his sister and put his arm around her waist. We didn't call the police, she said. I didn't need to ask why. The people I work with have a mortal fear of cops. They're just as afraid of them as they are of the gangbangers who still rule the street. I have a lot of respect for the officers who do their best in the city, but like any other group, there are good ones and bad ones, and most of them don't have a lot of patience for people they keep seeing day by day. People who are killing each other, fighting over a few square feet of concrete, pumping their body full of drugs, doing nothing to improve their lives. I can understand their frustration. Me and the cops, we both want to make things better in the city. I just go around fixing things in a different way. So, where did you go after they took your mama away? God rest her soul, I asked. We went into one of those board-ups, said Shanti. We've been living there. That's where the rats got Jamal. They didn't take mama away? Jamal piped up. What do you mean? I asked him. Didn't you call anybody? We don't have no phone, said Shanti. We just left. A chill came over me as I realized what she was saying. Good Lord, girl, I said. You don't mean to tell me your mama's still there? Shante began to cry. I covered it. I tried to wake her up, she said, but she wouldn't answer me. I didn't know what else to do. I took Jamal and covered his eyes so he didn't have to look at her, and we just left. Oh, merciful Father, I said into my hands. There are some days when living in the city is no different than living in a war zone. When you got children wandering the streets for days when their mama did in their apartment, you might think there's a war going on right here. And there is. You watch the news, you see people of far off countries where folks live in dirt have no food to eat. The streets are in ruins, no one is safe. Well, let me tell you something. I don't need to watch the news to see that kind of thing. It happens right here at home. Other folks call it a tragedy, I call it reality. And it's the children who are the victims. That was the end of the chapter on page 15. So chapter 2. Remember to check out the other books available on our website. This is chapter 3 reading for Just Gone. So let us begin. I had 1 or 2 friends on the police force. I called them whenever I needed someone I could really trust. So after I got Shanti to tell me where they lived, I made a call to Sergeant Kozinski. He and I went way back. We helped each other out when we could. I told him what those kids told me, and I told him what he could find when he went to their apartment. I asked him to call me back when he checked into it. I hung up the phone. I turned to see Shanti and Jamal heading out the door. Now just wait a minute, I said. Where do you think you're going? They stopped. I was glad, because I wasn't chasing them down the street. I didn't know it yet, but the sickness that was going to take over my life was already inside me. I was tired all the time. I thought maybe it was because I worked too hard, saw too much bad stuff. Maybe that was what made me sick in the first place, or maybe it was just how it was meant to be. You gotta die of something after all. You two come back here, I said. You can't go there on your own. You were going to that board-up, weren't you? They nodded. And back to the rats, I said, and the crackheads and the gangbangers and the bullets flying around the place. Listen, children, you stay here tonight and let me look after you. They were edging towards the door. I didn't know what they were so afraid of. Being split up, I guess. Ending up in a foster home, or maybe jail. You don't need to commit a crime to go to the slammer around here. All you gotta do is be poor. I'll give you some more to eat, I said. You can sleep here too. We got plenty of beds. It's safe here, I promise. Food was the magic word. They turned around and came back in. I gave them a couple more sandwiches. There were about 4 or 5 of them in the shelter. They had their children with them. Jamal went in the black to play with them. He acted like he didn't have a care in the world. Shanti, she just sat there at one of those tables and looked at her shoes. like they were the most interesting things in the world. Don't you want to play? I asked. Play what? She said. Life ain't no game. It wasn't an hour until the phone rang. Yeah, Mother, we found her, Sergeant Kwinsky said. Just like you said. Mind me asking how you knew about this? A couple of little birds told me, I said. You know anything about this murder? You have to tell me, said Sergeant Kaczynski. I'm not hiding anything from you, Sergeant, I told him. I just got a tip, that's all. She got two kids who are scared stiff of what might happen to them. We gonna have to call social services, said the sergeant. I shuddered. I knew what that meant. They'd be sent to a place that was more like a prison than a home. They'd be fed and clothed, but not much else. I could do that much here, and they would be a lot more safer with me. Sergeant, you let me harden that part of things, I said. As far as you know, that was just an anonymous phone call. I imagine it wouldn't be too long before someone noticed anyway. She must not have been in very good shape by the time you got there. It was pretty rough, he said. Imagine a body lying dead for days in this heat. The evidence all points to an accident, so that's how I'll write it up. But Mother, you gotta promise me that's the right thing. If there were children involved, they have to be looked after. They will be, Sergeant, I promise, I said. You know how you and me are in the same team. Besides, think of all the paperwork I'm saving you. Sergeant Krasinski grumbled about something and hung up. He was a gruff fellow, but had a big heart. We trusted each other, and we had one thing in common. We both hated paperwork. I called Shantae and Jamal over to me. Children, they found your mother, I said. What's gonna happen to us? Shantae asked. For now, you're gonna stay right here with me. And they both looked happy. And your mother is going to be taken care of nice and proper, I said. She's all right now. She's with God. She ain't with God, said Jamal. Jackie Vacky got her. Now you listen, I said. I won't have no blasphemy. What's that? Jamal asked. It means talking against God, I told him. He shrugged. I never seen God, but I've seen Jackie Vacky plenty of times, he said. When grown-ups be bad to kiss, Jackie Vacky gonna take care of him. I was trying to understand something then. I knew Jamal didn't get those marks on his body from normal accidents. It was looking to me like he'd been hit, maybe worse. Besides his right marks, there were one or two marks that looked like cigarette burns. He had welts on his back that I knew were from being beaten. Jackie Vacky punished the grown-ups, I asked. Is that how it works? That's how he got our mama, Jamal said. I told you he's crazy, Shantae said to me. Was your mama ever bad to you? I asked. Shantae started pacing back and forth. She looked like she might cry. That was my answer right there. But Jamal was as cool as a cucumber. They're gonna bury our mama? He asked. Yes, I said. She's gonna be taken care of. They're gonna do it in a church? There'll be some kind of funeral, I said. Well then, said Jamal, I ain't going. I'm staying right here. That's all I need to know about their mama. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Maybe these kids were better off with me after all, and that's why he brought them to me. It's not up to me to question things. I know that now. I can't choose that time I live in. I can only decide how I'm gonna live in. So that was ends on page 19. That was chapter 3 of the book, Just Gone by William Kolaski. You guys can check out the rest of the Golden Oak books and nominees available on our website. Welcome back, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, to the chapter 4 reading of Just Gone by William Kolaski. May I remind you that there's many of these excellent books from Golden Oak nominees available on our website with their accompanying audio recordings. Please visit our website for more information. So let us begin. For the next few days, I kept Shantae and Jamal close. It wasn't hard. Shantae liked helping me around the shelter. There was always plenty to do, and Jamal entertained the other kids with his stories of Jackie Vacky. I listened too, though I pretended not to. Jackie Vacky, I learned, was once a homeless child himself. The angels saw how good he was and decided that they needed his help. They gave him magical powers. Now, as a grown-up, he wore raggedy clothes to show that his heart was with the poor people. He wore a floppy hat that covered his face, so you could never see what he looked like. And he carried 2 suitcases with him. They were all beat up, like he had been around the world 1,000 times and carried those suitcases every step of the way. One of the suitcases was white. It was full of food which he gave to hungry children. The other was black. This one contained the punishment for adults who were bad to children. The punishment was usually death. Shelter children have always told wild stories. It's how they explain their world to themselves. They need a way to understand violence, drugs, abuse, and most of all, death. So they make up stories and tell them to each other. Sometimes the stories take on a life of their own. They get repeated, and they grow. But I'd never hear a story quite like Jackie Vacky before. Then again, I've never met a boy like Jamal before either. I let him tell us stories. I saw no harm in it. A good imagination is the sign of intelligence in a kid, and Jamal was as bright as one could be. I knew I was going to miss him, but I couldn't keep them around for much longer. I was gonna have to find them a real home. There was a lady named Miss Mingus who lived in a townhouse near the shelter. She was what you might call a church lady. She didn't have any children of her own. She was married once, but her husband died a long time ago. I used to see her every Sunday, waiting in line to talk to the minister after his sermon. Sometimes she came down to the shelter and volunteered. She used to tell me, "Mother Angelique, if you ever need anything, just ask." Well, I needed her now. I don't like asking things for myself. But when it came to asking for children, I don't hesitate, and I will keep after you until you say yes. The three of us showed up at her place one morning. Miss Mingus came to the door in one of her crisp dresses. That woman was always spotless. I suppose that should have been my first warning. I usually don't trust people who look too clean, but I was anxious to find these kids a home, and I needed to be able to tell Sergeant Kozinski that they were being taken care of. "These are them?" she looked, looking the kids over. "Shanti and Jamal, this is Miss Mingus," I said. "Anyone else? She's your great aunt. You're gonna stay here, stay with her from now. You'll be safe." "How come we can't stay with you?" Jamal asked. "Because I can't keep you," I told him. "The shelter's supposed to be a temporary place." "What does that mean?" "It means you can only stay there a little while." "You're getting rid of us," he said. "No, I'm not," I said. "I will come visit you. You can see me anytime. But this is a real home, children. You'll be looked after." "How come we gotta stay here?" Shanti asked. I could tell right away that the kids didn't like Miss Mingus. Sometimes kids just know things. "If you want to stay together, this is where you have to be," I told her. "Otherwise, you'll be sent to live with strangers. And who knows what will happen then, so let's not have any complaining." "Mother Angelique, these children will be just fine with me, Miss Mingus. I am looking forward to getting to knowing them." I already told Miss Mingus the whole story. She knew Shanti and Jamal were scared and grieving, that it might take a while for them to adjust. Miss Mingus said that she was fine with her. She seemed like an understanding woman. I helped them settle in. The town was like a museum. Everything was spick and span. It looked like nothing I'd ever touched or used, only looked at. Miss Mingus showed them their bedroom. "I get this whole room to myself," Shantae said. "Indeed you do," said Miss Mingus. "I get my own too," said Jamal. "Aren't you lucky?" I said. "I never had my own room before," said Shantae. "Me and Jamal had to share with my mama, and whatever man she brought home." Miss Mingus looked at me and shook her head. She and I were having the same thought. What things have these children seen? "You will have to promise to keep your rooms clean," said Miss Mingus. "You'll do your chores daily. What kids need most of all is structures," she said to me, as if I didn't know. "What chores?" Jamal said. "Chores are jobs around the house," said Miss Mingus. "Like cleaning up after yourself, making your bed, taking out the trash, things like that." I could tell Shantae liked having the idea of responsibility. She was warming up to Miss Mingus, but Jamal didn't look so sure. "We get jobs," he said. "We gonna get paid?" "You'll get paid with in room and board," I told him. "You're lucky to be here. Helping out is your way of paying back. And you will be going to church every Sunday." "Rain or shine," said Miss Mingus. "Ain't no rats here, is there?" Jamal said. "Certainly not," said Miss Mingus. She looked so shocked at the very idea. "There's never been a rat in my house, and there never will be." "That's good," said Jamal. "I hate rats." "Do we get to go back to school?" Shantae asked. "First thing next Monday," said Miss Mingus. "We'll register you here at our local school. The way won't have to That way you won't have to walk so far." Shantae smiled. I could see she was starting to like Miss Mingus more and more. She was trying to be as good as she could, but Jamal frowned. "I can't read," he said. "I've never been to school. What if they think I'm stupid?" Shantae rolled her eyes. "Well then, we shall have to work extra hard until you caught up," Miss Mingus said. I hugged the children goodbye. Miss Mingus walked us to the door. We shook hands. "They might just need a little time to adjust," I told her again. They never had much of a home before." "Don't worry about it," Miss Mingus said. "We'll be just fine. Once they settle in, they won't remember any other way." "Jamal has quite an imagination," I said. He can be silly sometimes." "I know how to deal with little boys," Miss Mingus told me. "Hard work and discipline is all they need most. The Lord will look after the rest." I got another bad feeling then. Like maybe this wasn't the right thing. I was so happy they found him a home that I ignored my instincts. After all, wasn't this what I started praying for? Now Shanti and Jamal would have clean beds to sleep in, food on the table, and chance to start over. I could tell Sergeant Kozinski they were safe, and I could cross them off the list of people I need to worry about. Bless you, I said to Miss Mingus. God is surely smiling today. We are doing his work, Mother Angelique, Mrs. Mingus said. See you at church next morning. That was the end of the chapter for the chapter 4. That was ended on on page 23. Remember to check out the rest of the books, and I'll see you later. Welcome back to the reading of Chapter 5 for Just Gone by William Kozlowski. Remember to check out the other books available on our website with their required audio recordings that are available on our website as well. In multiple languages, the text layer is available, may I say. We put a lot of work into it and we recommend you check them out. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. As it turned out, I would see Shanti and Jamal again a lot sooner than Sunday. Just 2 days later, I got a phone call at home from Miss Mingus. She sounded pretty put out. "Hello, Mother Angelique," she said, in a tone so sickly sweet I knew it must be disguising some kind of poison. We got a problem here," she said. "A few problems, actually." "Why, Miss Mingus, whatever is the matter?" I said, as nicely as I could. "If I had known how sinful these children are, I might not have agreed to this," said Miss Mingus. "Mother Angelique, we need to have a talk, in person." "I'll be heading right over," I said. I headed over to Miss Mingus's townhouse and I knocked on the door. When she brought me inside, I saw Shanti sitting on the couch. I could see from her red and swollen eye that she'd been crying. "This girl has not been honest with us," said Miss Mingus. "She was hiding something." "Shanti," I said, "is there something wrong?" She wouldn't answer me, just look at her shoes. Miss Mingus held up a test stick. The kind yet to be on. It showed 2 lines. I knew what it meant, even though I've never taken a test like that myself. In my case, there's no need. I had seen them done plenty of times. The test meant Shantae was pregnant. "Oh no, poor baby," I said. I sat down next to her, leaned into me, and started crying. "She's no baby," said Miss Mingus. "Not anymore." "I didn't know," Shantae sobbed. I put my arms around her. "All right now," I said. "Everything will be all right. Girls like are what's wrong with the city," said Miss Mingus. "Another mouth to feed and no one to support it. Babies are having babies." "Well, now we don't know the whole story, Mrs. Mingus," I said. "It might have been something she didn't want to happen. Do we know who the father is?" "She won't say. And the other is just as bad as her in his own way." "Jamal, what did he do?" "He said someone named Jackie Wacky is going to kill me," said Miss Mingus. "He's been making threats, blaspheming against God." "Where's Jamal?" I said. "Upstairs in his room," said Miss Mingus. "I locked him in there until he can behave himself." I stood up. "Miss Mingus, that will not do," I said. "This will not do at all. You let him out right this minute." She stared, and I stared at each other. "You don't want to get into a staring contest with me. If there were an Olympics for staring a hole through someone, I'd have all the gold awards." "Fine," she said, taking a key from the apron pocket. "Come with me." I followed her upstairs to Jamal's room. She knocked on the door. "Boy," she said, "we're coming in." She unlocked the door and tried to open it, but it would not budge, no matter how hard she pushed. He's blocked it with someone," he said. "Jamal, open the door, here." "Here, let me try," I said. I grabbed the knob and twisted it. The door opened as pie. "That's strange." I stepped inside and looked around. There was nothing in the room but a single bed. Jamal was nowhere to be seen. I looked under the bed. I opened the closet. He was gone. "Miss Mingus, what have you done with Jamal?" For once, Miss Mingus was at loss of words. She put one hand to her throat. I don't know," she said. "He was here. I know he was." I went to the window and tried to open it. I thought that maybe he had gone out that way. It wouldn't budge. The window hasn't been open in 20 years. No way he got out of there. "He couldn't climb down somehow?" I asked, looking at the street. "There's not even a fire escape," said Miss Mingus. "This is all the proof I need. First the door, now this. He has a devil in them. You can see it in his eyes." "Nonsense," I said. "He's a perfectly normal boy." "Well then, where is he?" Excuse me. We looked all around the house. Jamal was not in it. I used Miss Mingus's phone to call the shelter, just in case he had gotten out somehow and was there looking for me. But the lady on duty said Jamal was not there. "We need to call the police," I said. "No, please," said Shantae, tears were streaming down her face. "Please don't matter, Angelique. They're gonna split us up." "I can't be responsible for him," said Miss Mingus. She looked afraid now. Whatever he's gone up to, it's nothing to do with me. Miss Mingus, I said, when I asked you to take care of these children, this is not what I had in mind. I can't be responsible, Miss Mingus, said Miss Mingus. She just stood there and panicked. I can't be responsible. I am known in this community. I'm a God-fearing woman. I have my reputation to consider. You right about one thing, Miss Mingus. I said, you can't be responsible. You don't have it in you. I grabbed Shanti's hand. Come on, my dear heart, I said to her. We're leaving right now. I think that's best. So do I said. We're heading for the door. See you in church on Sunday, Miss Mingus said to me. I stopped and looked at her. Miss Mingus, I said, barely able to control myself. If I was you, I wouldn't wait until Sunday. I would get to church right now. I would get on my knees and ask for forgiveness. I would not get up back until it has been granted, no matter how long it took. Then Shantae and I walked out the door. So that was the end of the chapter on page 27, and next will be the reading for chapter 6. Again, check out our website, and I'll see you again next time. Welcome back, everybody, to the reading of chapter 6 of Just Gone by William Kozlowski. And remember to check out the other books, which is on our website, reading program for ESL adults. Let us begin. Out on the street, I said to Shantae, what all happened in there? Oh, Mother Angelique, this lady is so mean, said Shantae. She yelled at us all the time, and she whipped Jamal with a belt. I thought you said we would be safe there. I grabbed Shantae and held her close. I made a mistake, I said, but I won't do it again. No one's gonna lay a finger on you. Not if I have anything to say about it. Now dry your tears, baby girl. We gotta find your brother. But where should we look? Said Shantae, sniffling. What about the place you used to stay? The border? Might as well start there. So we walked. Night was falling. It was no time for two women to be out there on our own. But I had the fire in me burning bright. I felt sorry for the gangbanger who tried to mess with me on that night. I held Shantae's hand and we marched through the city like we owned the place. We saw plenty of rough characters. They always come out at night. No one said a word to us. They must have known better, I guess. Shantae led me to the row of houses in the worst block in the whole city, half of them empty. Around here, they were called board-ups. They were places too run down to live in anymore. So the owners put up boards over the windows and doors, and the city put up signs saying, condemned. This meant not fit for human beings. The board-ups were anything but empty. They're full of crackheads and worse. This is the one, Shantae said. She walked up the stoop and grabbed the plywood, opened the door. It was mostly loose. You could move it enough to get inside. You let me go first, I said. If anything was waiting in it to do harm, I wanted to happen to me, not her. The place was emptier than a witch's heart. There's a bare mattress in what used to be a living room. It has stains on it that I prefer not to look at too closely. The floor was covered in trash. It stank to heaven high. I poked all over the place, but there's no Jamal. He ain't here, said Shantae. Is there anyone around here we can ask? Said Shantae. We ought to get out of here, Mother. Nighttime is when the rats came out. Even as she said that, I could hear squeaks and scrabbling of little feet. So we went back out onto the street. I was out of ideas. I have to call Sergeant Kozinski. I have no choice. He's my friend on the force. Who is he? He's my friend on the force. I was dreading that conversation. It meant a lot of questions. He had been in trouble, and so would Miss Mingus. Sergeant Quincy would have a lot to answer for it if it got out that he had bent the rules for me. But the safety of the little boy meant more to me than I knew of it. That was in the days before cell phones, so I had to find somewhere to call him from. But this was not the kind of neighborhood where you just knocked on a door and asked to use the phone. This was a good way to get shot. Come on, I said. Let's get back to the shelter. But Shantae pulled back. I ain't going back there. Shantae, please, I said. Where else are you gonna go? You got nowhere? I got somewhere, she said. The baby has a daddy. He's rich. He can help me. Rich, you say, I said. Yep, he's got a big car with leather seats and a stereo in it. All kinds of dudes working for me. He'd be glad to see me. He's gonna take care of me. Gonna give me a nice place to live. Sounds like a drug dealer to me, am I right? Shantae didn't answer me. She just looked at her shoes. Now listen up, girl. No person would take advantage of a young girl like you who's gonna step up and do the right thing. You're just a toy to him. Something to use and throw away. He loves me, said Shantae. He's gonna give us a new home. I won't need no job or nothing. Girl, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, I said. You are making no sense. But Shantae was already heading down the street in the opposite direction of the shelter. Shantae, I called after this. You can't do this. You were supposed to help us, she said, but you made things weird. Goodbye, Mother Angelique. I'm staying far away from you. Shantae, please, I'm sorry, I said. I was only trying to help. Come back. But she didn't listen. She kept going. It was dark. Half the streetlights didn't work, and the moon was at night, so I headed back home on my own. I could tell what time it was to let someone make their own decision. She was way too young to understand. Just a silly girl with a head full of crazy ideas about the way the world was supposed to be. I understood. I was a silly one myself, a long time ago. Life had taught me some hard lessons. The hardest one was that I couldn't teach people from my own experiences. I had to let them find out for themselves. I just hoped Shantae would be strong enough to handle whatever happened to her. She had two choices, and she made the wrong one. There's nothing more I could do. That was the end of the reading for chapter 6, ending on page 30. Remember to check out the rest of the books available from Golden Oak nominees with their audio recordings on our website reading program for ESL adults. Um, so welcome back to the reading of chapter 7. Let's begin. I prayed hard that night for a sign. The deal I had with Sergeant Kaczynski was broken. It was on me to tell him what had happened, but I couldn't. See what good that would do me. Jamal and Shantae would be listed as missing. When the cops found them, the city would take custody. This worried me as much as anything. I knew too much about the social services worked. These people had their hearts in the right place, but the system was broken. Some youth homes are no better than the ghetto. The kids in the are as rough as they come. The children might have even been better off the street. And if they didn't want to be found, the cops would never locate them, which would mean that the Sergeant Kaczynski's faith in me would be broken for nothing. He would have 2 more runaways on the book. He would have to explain to his bosses why he hadn't followed the rules in the first place. He might even lose his job. It was all a big mess. So I didn't say anything to anyone. I had to trust that these kids would come back to me if they needed me bad enough. But I kept looking for them anyway. During my spare time, I walked up and down the street, talking to people and asking if they had seen Jamal or Shantae. I didn't have a picture to show anybody. There were so many kids running wild that you couldn't tell one from another. Nobody had seen a picture of a boy with rat bites on his face, and nobody remembered a young girl whose pregnancy was not even beginning to show. One day I stopped some young boys who were on their way to some kind of mischief somewhere else. They were not much older than Jamal, so I asked if they knew him. Their leader was a young fellow with dreadlocks. His voice wasn't even changed yet, but he had a teardrop tattooed on his face. This meant he was in a gang. Who he run with? This little Napoleon demanded. Crips, Bloods, Lamara, 8th Street? He's not in a gang, he said. I said, he's too smart for that. Excuse me. Then he dead already. The boy told me confidently. You don't got a gang, you got nothing. You boys should join my gang, I told him. We're the strongest gang in the world. He looked suspicious. What gang you talking about? Our leader is the Almighty, I said, and there's nothing he can't do. Yeah, I don't want to hear no church stuff, lady, he said. His dreadlocks went back and forth as he looked at his friends. How are you gonna make money going to the church all the time? He reached into his pocket and flashed me a vat of cash. You lucky you ain't got no purse, or I'd be taking it right now. Young man, I said, the wages of sin is death. I gave him my best stare. He looked uncomfortable, then moved on. But one of them, a boy so small he ought to be in kindergarten, hung back. I seen that boy, he whispered. Jamal, I knows him. Where did you see him, love? I asked. I don't know, said the little one. His voice was high and coarse as he whispered. I've seen him, that's all. He was with that dude everyone's talking about. The dude in the big hat. What dude did you say? You know, the dude carrying them suitcases around all the time. One black, one white. You seen that man? I felt a chill, even though it was a high noon on a hot day. He was describing Jackie Backy. The little boy, nodding, his face all solemn. I've seen at night sometimes, he said in his hoarse little voice. Once he gave me some food. He's nice to kids. but he doesn't like grown up, even though he is one. Listen, kid, I said, you ever get in trouble, you ever get hungry, you come to my shelter. You're better off than running with this crowd. You're gonna end up in trouble. Yo, Squeaks, called the Dreadlocks, one from the block down. Let's roll. I gotta go, said Squeaks. No, you don't, Squeaks, I said. There's a better way than this. Let the higher power lead you, little one. That fellow that there is gonna hurt you. Squeaks looked at me, and then his gang. Then at me again. Then he moved down the block to join him. My heart broke, watching him go. He should have been in school, learning his ABCs. Instead, he was learning how to stick up old ladies and run drugs from corner dealers. That's life in the city. And and at the shelter, one day about 6 months after this, a lady named Linda May Jones showed up to relieve me at desk. She said, "Too bad about poor old Miss Mingus." What do you mean? I asked. Though from yesterday she said I already knew. Didn't you hear? She died at home yesterday. Nephew found her. I haven't seen Miss Mingus since the day at her house. She didn't come back by the shelter anymore. I saw her a few times at church, but she didn't wait around to talk to the minister. She just skedaddled on right back. She must have felt some shame at what happened, but she never came clean with me about it. As angry as I was, I never bore any ill will. It was not my place to pass judgment on people. That was for the higher power to do. Goodness, I said. How sad. How did she die? Strangest thing, said Linda May. They can't tell. Didn't look like a heart attack or stroke. She was just sitting there in her kitchen. She pointed at the window, even though she was dead. Her hand was struck right up in the air like it was frozen there. Another chill went through me then. I'm a sensible woman, but Jamal's words came to me, and part of me wondered if his warnings had come true. I'd never heard of anything dying like that before, I said. Me neither, said Linda May. His work is done in mysterious ways sometimes. Amen to that, I said. As a God-fearing woman, I ought not to say this, but I heard that story and began to wonder maybe there wasn't something to this Jackie Wacky story after all. I wondered before that I used to hope to meet a good man someday. Not to marry and settle down with, that was not my path in this life, but just so that I knew there was some goodness left in this world. But it seemed to me that this man would have to be strong and powerful behind all human law to rise above the misery of this world. So I forgot about ever meeting such a man, because men like that don't exist. Or did they? A tiny seed of wonder had just planted in me. I tried to ignore it because I felt God would not be pleased with me for thinking such things. Then again, I was just some poor middle-aged woman. What did I know about what God wanted? What did I know about anything at all? That was the end of the chapter on page 34. Please remember to visit our website. We're a reading program for ESL adults. Hello everybody, welcome back to the reading of chapter 8. Remember to check out our videos and our audio recordings of other Golden Oaks nominees on our website, reading program for ESL adults. So let us begin for Just Gone by William Kozlowski. This was all a long time ago. Squeaks is probably dead or in jail by now, a hardened criminal. Once, though, he was a sweet little boy, and that's how I prefer to remember him. Time passed. I never did find those kids. I got caught up in other people's lives. And little by little, I forgot about Jamal and Shantae. The city's a machine that never stops grinding. It seems to make two different kinds of people. One kind leads charmed lives in safe neighborhoods. They have a lot of expensive things. Maybe they think they're happy. I don't know. I don't concern myself with them because they don't need me. I care for the other kinds of people. Those who get chewed up by the machine and spit out. Their lives are broken from the very start. They come to the shelter in an endless parade. Victims, addicts, hookers, homeless people, hungry, hurt children. These are the people I work with. They are the ones who share my world. I was tired of all the time. It was getting harder and harder to get out of bed each morning. I figured I was just weak in spirit, so I prayed for strength, and I kept doing the work I was called to do. One day a woman came in. I could tell right away she was an addict. She had this crazed look in her yellow eyes. Her hair was tangled and snarled, a wig of snakes. She was missing a couple of teeth. She could hardly walk straight. She's wearing high-cut shorts and low-cut shirt, big spiky heels. So she was a working girl. I got ready for whatever was about to happen. She stood there in front of me, weaving and staring. "Can I help you, sister?" I said. "You need a place to stay?" "Don't you know me, mother?" I said. "Have we met before?" She giggled. "I guess we have," I said. "Long time ago now." I searched for Auntie Shante. I said, "Is that you?" "See, I knew you'd remember." "Shante, how long has it been?" I did some math in my head. I had seen her 3 years ago. That will make her 17. The woman before me now looked at least twice that age. The machine was grinding on her heart. Can I get me a sandwich?" I took her back to one of the tables and got her a meal. Then I sat down for across her and she had a hard time eating, like it was painful for her to chew. Look, I've looked all over for you, I said. "I looked high and low." "Yeah, I've been living a good life," she said. "Got me a penthouse and a Ferrari. All kinds of boyfriends." "Shantae," I said, where is your baby?" "My baby," her expression changed. She put her down her sandwich. "Why are you asking me that? Last time I saw you, you were pregnant." "That seemed like a million years ago," she said. "I don't know where that baby is. Maybe you best ask Jamail." "Jamail, where is he?" "He out there," she said, Chantal waving her arm, still doing his crazy thing. "Why would he know where your baby is?" "He came one night and took him," said Chantal. "I told me I wasn't fit to keep him. He was gonna raise him up himself, train him his ways." "What ways?" "His crazy talking ways," said Shante. "You know Jamal is." "So Jamal is alright? He's safe?" "Alright, he's just as crazy as ever," said Shante. "Talking about angels and demons fighting over the city. He's seeing things." "But where has he been all this time?" "He's been living with that dude," Shante said. "What dude?" I said. I knew what she was going to say. "The dude who wears all them raggedy clothes and a big hat," she said. "Carries them 2 suitcases around, dealing out food and punishment." "Stop it right there, Shante," I said. I can't believe I'm hearing this foolishness again. I had forgotten the chill I felt when I leaned over Miss Mingus's that my practical side had taken over again. But now I felt that weird feeling creeping over me once again. The tiny seed of wonder that had been planted long before was still there. Seen him myself, mother said Shante. He was with Jamal that night. He told me if I didn't give them my baby, he was going to do the same thing that was done to that Miss Mingus lady. Are you saying you believe Jackie Wacky killed Miss Mingus?" He opened up that black suitcase on her, she said. She began to cry, just like he did to my mama. "They got my baby, and they're raising him up in some weird place, up in the clouds, the place where magic happens." She was starting to rave now. I tried to get her to come lie down on one of the beds for a while, because she looked exhausted. But instead she went into the kitchen and locked herself in there for a good 20 minutes. And that was the bathroom. Excuse me, that was a correction. When I finally jiggled the lock open, she was sitting on the toilet, quickly stuffing something back into her pocket. The air had a nasty chemical smell. I knew what that was. "Shante, you have to leave right now," I said. "You can't be smoking crack here." "Oh, come on," she said. "Just a little pick me up." "No, you must go, or I'll call the police." I had to be strict with her, because there were other people in the shelter, mothers and their children. I had a duty to keep them safe. Drugs had no place in our haven. I took Shantae by the arm and pulled her towards the door. "I must sue you for touching me," she screamed. "Get out, Shantae," I said. "Come back when you're clean." I let go of her when she was out on the street again. She turned and looked at me, her eyes wide and angry. A stream of filth and gibberish poured out of her mouth. I wouldn't repeat it here. "Are you done?" "Jackie Wacky gonna get you too," she said. "I fear only the Almighty," I told her. "If something happens to me, it's because it's written on in the book, not because of some urban legend." "Goodbye, mother," she squeaked. "You won't be seeing me again." "You can come back any time," I said. "But you have to be clean. That's the rule." "You won't see me again," she repeated. And I didn't. I just didn't know what happened to Shantae, but I can guess. Same thing that happened to thousands of girls in the city. The machine keeps grinding until there's nothing left. So that was chapter 8 of Just Gone by William Kozlowski. And now we'll continue chapter 9 later. Welcome back, everybody, to the reading of Chapter 9 of Just Gone by William Kozlowski. May I state that you must visit our website for the rest of the audio recordings of other Golden Hook nominees, as we put hard work into it, and we recommend you check them out, as you have been reading this book, and it's getting quite interesting. More years passed. When you get to a certain age, time speeds up. You blink, and another year has gone by. Seems like just last week I was a little girl, walking to church with my mother. I blinked, and then I was a young woman, marching in the street with thousands of other people, demanding her rights. A few more blinks, somehow I was an old woman, sitting in a doctor's office. That's how fast life moves. Blinks too many times, and you miss the whole thing. The doctor told me some bad news. Turned out that tired feeling I was just getting from working too hard, that wasn't a sickness. That wasn't. There was a sickness in my body that had been growing for years, stealing on my energy, making itself bigger. A tumor. If I didn't get it out, it would destroy me. The doctor said it would take a while with his knife. They might give me a few more years. No promises, he said, but it's worth a try. I always thought that when it was my time, I would go peacefully. That was part of God's plan, but I didn't feel it was my right to fight against that. But in the end, I didn't feel ready to leave either. So I told him, "Go ahead, do what you can. Anything I have left. Any time I have left, I will give it to the children of the city." I went under the knife, and when I woke up, there was less of me. I was at home for a long time afterwards, recuperating, they call it, getting better. A young nurse came by every day to check on me. Mostly I just slept. I barely get out of bed in the morning. Going to the shelter was out of question. I was angry at myself for being so weak. Why did I bother to let them save me if I was going to spend the rest of my days in bed? I had to admit it. It was my own fear that made me want to keep living. I was ashamed of myself. I truly was. My life was a beautiful gift. I knew it was not mine to keep forever. And I knew I was clinging to it like a jealous little girl, not wanting to let go. Had I learned nothing? It's true what they say. We come into the world toothless, blind, and scared, and we leave it the same way, if we're lucky. One night late I heard sirens. There's nothing new around here, but they stopped just a few blocks away. I can tell the difference between fire trucks, police, and ambulance. They were fire trucks. Outside the windows, the sky was red. Something close was burning. I put my coat on and went out in the street. People were running. Could only manage a slow walk, but I forced my feet to keep going. I knew it had to be the shelter. I had a feeling. I was right. When I got there, it was in flames. There was a crowd on the street, and every person in the neighborhood was there. I had always had a hard time getting volunteers to help out at the shelter, but when it came to watch it burn to the ground, there was no lack of people to watch. As I got closer, I got as close as I could. Linda Mae Johnson ran the place now. I looked around for her. She recognized me first and came running over. "Oh, mother, it's terrible," she said. "Must have been that old wiring. By the time the firefighters got here, it was already too late." "Where are the children?" I asked. "Are they safe?" "I don't know," she sobbed. "I looked for them before I ran out, but I couldn't see them." "Girl, what are you saying? Are they still trapped in there?" "No, mother, they're gone." "How many were there tonight?" "10," she said. "And what about their mothers?" "There was only one that had a mother," she said. "The rest were on their own." "Where did they go?" "I don't know," Linda May cried. I could hear the sound of a woman screaming then. I stepped over the hose and past the fireman until I found her. "Where's my baby?" she cried. "Where is he? Someone took him." "Now, sweetheart," I said. "What are you talking about?" "I woke up and saw the flames," she said. "I could see a man taking the children out. They were all following him. I tried to catch him, but they were gone. He had my baby in his arms." "What man?" a policeman asked her. "Can you give a description?" "He wore these raggedy old clothes and he had a floppy hat on," she said. "He took them all. He kidnapped them." A fireman came up to the police officer. He was covered in soot and breathing hard. "There's no one left inside," he said. "We looked everywhere." "That's what happened to those kids," the police officer said. At the moment, there was a great roar and the roof of the shelter fell in. A shower of sparks exploded up towards heavens. I could see the flames reflecting in the clouds. It looked like Judgment Day. "I know where they are," I said. The policeman looked at me strangely. "And who are you, ma'am?" I said. "Never mind that," I said. "I need to talk to Sergeant Kovinsky." "Sergeant Kovinsky is not here," said the policeman. "He's probably in home." Wake him up," I said. "I need to talk to him. Tell him it's Mother Angelique. He'll come." The cop looked at Lender May. "You better take your mother home," he said. "She's not well." "She's not my mother exactly. She's more like everyone's mother." "I know what those children are," where those children are, I insisted. "Get me Sergeant Kovinsky." All right, the cop said. He spoke on the radio. "Don't worry, daughter," I told the upset young woman. "Your baby's safe. Someone's watching over her." "Why did he take him from me?" she screamed. "Why?" I knew the answer to that, but I didn't tell her. If I looked at this young woman closely, I could see the signs. Maybe it was the needle. Maybe it was the pipe. Maybe there's a darkness inside it that only the man in the hat could see. "He will be done," I told her. "Have faith. All will be well." She didn't seem to hear me. Few like her ever do, it seems. "Ma'am, if you know where those children are, you better tell me right now." So I told him, and then I went back home and waited. I sat in my chair with my electric heater and watched the sun come up. Soon I thought I will meet him, the man I had waited my whole life, the good man I thought I could never find. Welcome back to chapter 10, which is page 17 out of 26. So let us begin. It was some hours later when my mother finally rang. "Hello, Sergeant Kuzinski," I said. "Excuse me. Correction, mother was actually phone." "Hello, Sergeant Kuzinski," I said. "How did you know it was me, mother?" "I know everything," I told him. I decided not to tell him I had a caller ID now. When someone thinks you have special powers, it's best to let them go on thinking that. Did you find the children?" "Yes, we found them." "Where were they?" "In the board up. Right where you said they would be." "How did you know, mother?" "I have my ways, Sergeant." "Are they all right?" "They're fine. Thank God for that." Then I waited to hear what else he had to tell me. "And there's someone with them, mother," said the sergeant. "A man, a very strange man. He was pretty badly burned. He's in hospital now. He asking for you." "Asking for me? I'll be right over." "How are you going to get there?" "Same way I've gotten around my own life," I said. "My 2 feet." "You wait right there, mother," said Sergeant Kuzinski. "I'll send a car for you." I guess old age does have its privileges after all. I rode to the hospital sign in the front of a police car. Sergeant Kuzinski was waiting for me in the lobby. I had not seen him in some years. He was younger than me, but not by much. He had been strapping a young man 6 feet tall with blonde hair, but time was worked the magic on all of us. Now the sergeant had snow on the roof, and his face was worn with care. We looked at each other and smiled, just two old warriors near the end of the battle, wondering if they had managed to do any good in the world. "You're looking well, mother," said Sergeant Kuzinski. "None of your sweet talk now," I said. "Take me to him." "Right this way," he led. He led me to the elevator, then he walked me down a long hallway. Another policeman was standing guard over a room. He went in. A man lay in bed, covered in bandages and wearing a hospital gown. My eyes tried to get bad back then. I could not see his face clearly. I need to get closer. "Can he hear anything?" I asked the nurse. "He's in and out," she said. "Don't talk to him too long." "He was wearing some old clothes when we found him," said Sergeant Kulinski. "He must have been a bum or a homeless guy." "He's not homeless," I said. "Do you know him, Miller?" "I know of him. I think he knows of me. He was in the board up with the children, just like he said. We thought he kidnapped them, but the kids said he was the only one. He was only feeding them." "Did he have anything with him?" I said. "Like what?" "A couple of beat up old cases," I said. "One black, one white." A stranger came over Sergeant. A stranger look came over Sergeant Kuzinski's face. Then he went out for a moment. When he came back in, he had a suitcase in each hand. Then he set them on the floor. "This one," he said, "was full of canned food. The kids were eating when they came in." "I see. And what about the other one?" "The black one? There's nothing inside," said Sergeant Kuzinski. He made a move to open it, but I stopped him. "The black one? There's nothing inside," Sergeant Kuzinski told me. He made a move to open it, but I stopped him. "Don't," I said. "I don't want to know." "But mother, there's nothing in it," I said. "That's what you think," I told him. "Some things cannot be seen with the eyes, but all the time." "What's that supposed to mean?" asked Sergeant Kuzinski. "Do you go to church?" I asked him. "Yes," he said, "every Sunday." "Then you know what I mean," I said. Sergeant Kuzinski shook his eyes. I came close to the bed and I looked at the face of the man who lay in it. I had not seen him in years. I knew from the old rabbit bite on his cheek who he was. For a moment time played a trick on me. I imagined he was still the same sweet little glowing boy with light. "Jamal," I said, "it's Mother Angelique." Welcome back, everybody, to the reading of chapter 11 of Just Gone by William Kowalski. Remember to check out the rest of the books available on our website, and let us begin. Jamal moaned softly. He turned his head and looked at me. His eyelids fluttered. "Mother," he said. "That you?" I didn't know what he meant, or his real mother. I don't know whether he meant me or his real mother. I took his hand. "It's Mother Angelique, Jamal," I said. "You remember me? You came to me when you were just a little boy. You were wearing nothing but a pair of shorts and some ratty old sneakers. I gave you a shirt that had number 11 on it. You remember?" 30 years had gone by since those kids had walked into my shelter for the first time, but I knew he remembered. He smiled, or tried to. I remember, he said. I never forgot you. I'm sorry for so many things that didn't work out with Mrs. Mingus, I told him. I thought I was doing the right thing. I don't know if she was so mean. I hope you can forgive me. He didn't say anything to that. He squeezed my hand. That was all the answer I needed. Jamal, I looked everywhere for you. You were just gone. I was afraid you were dead. I was with him, he said. With who? Him who saved me, Jamal said. Him who got me out of that place. And now you are him. I said, is that right? Is that how it works? It gets passed down from one to another? He nodded. His lips were awful dry. I asked the nurse for some water and a straw. I held it for him while he drank it. The kids, all right? He asked. Thanks to you, yes they are, I said. How you ever managed to make it to the boat ups with these burns is a miracle. You just rest now, honey. You're gonna be fine. He shook his head. No, he said. I'm done here. Nonsense, I said. You're a young man. You can bounce back. His breath was light and fast. To tell the truth, I did not believe my own words. I knew he would not last long for this world. I could smell the fire on him. Jamal, I said, I gotta ask you one more thing. He opened his eyes, then closed them. Shantae's baby boy, I asked. Was he with you? Yes, Jamal whispered. I had to take him. Otherwise, you were worried Shantae wouldn't be able to take care of him. She couldn't, he said. I know, baby. She came to see me. I saw what she had become. The baby must be a grown man now himself. Where is he? What's his name? Makwan, said Jamal. What a beautiful name. He must be a fine man now. Is he, Jamal? Is he a good man? Jamal nodded. I taught him everything I knew, he said. He's out there now, doing the work. Then he is a good man indeed, I said. Jamal did the strange thing again. He reached out and touched me in a place where my breast had been removed. I was so shocked. I didn't do anything. Except for the doctor, no man had ever touched me there. I know you've been sick, he said. I know you've been losing your faith. You wonder if you made a difference. How did you know that? I asked. You're gonna get better, Mother. You got more work to do. The world needs you. You got a long time yet. Don't give up. I took his hand in mine and sat with him for a long time. His breathing got lighter and faster, and then he just stopped. The nurses called some doctors, and they came rushing in. They tried to save him, but I knew it was no good. Jamal had left the world. Sergeant Kozinski and I went into the hall. What happened in there? The sergeant asked. Who was he to you, Mother? I figured Sergeant Kozinski had a right to know, so I told him the whole story, going back to the day I called him from the shelter, saying I had 2 kids who had lost their mom. He just shook his head. The longer I live, the stranger things get, he said. Tell me about it, I said. Life is a mystery, Sergeant, and what I've learned is that it's not up to us to solve it. We just have to live the best we can in the time we've given. Amen to that, he said. Take me home now, please, Sergeant Kozinski, I said. I'm very tired, and I'm more tired than I've ever been in my life. That was the end of the chapter, and now I will see you in the next one. Welcome back, everybody, to the reading of chapter 12 for Just Gone by William Kozlowski. Let us begin. Jamal didn't have any ID. No driver's license, no social security number, nothing. He had no criminal record either. They even checked his fingerprints. If it wasn't for me, they never would have known who he was. The police tried to find someone who was related to them, but they couldn't. Heaven knows what had become of Shantae by then. I told him I was willing to make arrangements for his funeral. Otherwise, he would be listed as John Doe and buried in an anonymous grave. That would have been too cruel. He deserved better than that. I decided to have him cremated. The flames of the mortuary finished when what the fire in the shelter had started. I received his ashes in an urn. I contacted a new minister in my search, and I told him I wanted to pay for a service in his memory. I also wanted his ashes to be placed in the cemetery. Jamal needed to have a proper religious burial. I didn't know if he had belonged to any religion, but I knew he and I believed in the same things. That was good enough for me. Was he a member of our church? The minister asked. In his own way, I said. He did a lot of good work. He was well known throughout the city. Really, what was his name? Maybe I knew him. You might have heard his street name, I said. Jackie Wacky. Doesn't sound a rebel. Sounds more like a drug dealer, the minister said. Far from it, I said. He was the opposite of a drug dealer. Tell me, Reverend, were you ever homeless as a child? Homeless? No, said the minister. We never had much, but we always had a roof over our heads. Then you were one of the lucky ones, I told him. If you had been homeless, you would have heard of Jackie Wacky. The children still talk about him sometimes. He's what you might call a legend. Well, if you want to pay for a service, that's fine, mother, he said. How many people do you think will be there? Maybe just me, I said. So keep it short and sweet. I put a notice in the paper about the funeral in case anybody else wanted to come. I didn't use Jamal's name. I had him printed the name people would know him by. I figured there would be at least some folks who would know who he was. I wasn't expecting too many people, but the day of the service there were lots and lots of people. They ranged from the very young to the middle-aged and women. There were even a few very old folks. They filled up the pews and stood along the walls. The minister looked surprised to see so many. It wasn't just Jamal they were there for. It was for whoever had come before him and whoever had come before that. After the service, I stood with the minister by the door. The people filled past us and shook our hands. They were all different kinds of people, from all walks of life. Some of them had become successful. I could tell by the way they were dressed. Others lived humble lives. I did not need to ask who these people were. I knew that at all time all of them had been homeless, hungry children, and that the man they knew as Jackie Vac had found them and fed them. They had come to pay their respects to the man who had saved their lives. And each of them seemed to know my name too. Thank you, Mother Angelique, they said, and bless you, Mother Angelique. I felt my heart grow a little bigger with every word. Suddenly I understood what Jamal had been saying in the hospital. He was right. I had been losing my faith. In my line of work, you don't often get to see your labor bear fruit. You help somebody out, then you never see them again. I never cared about being thanked. My work was its own reward. But it was hard sometimes, not knowing if I made a difference. Every time I read about another shooting, another death by drugs, another innocent child hurt or killed, I wonder if anything I did mattered. Now I understand that many of the people have come through my shelter. They have heard the story of the Jackie Wacky as it was passed down from one child to another. They would have known that it was not just a story, and they survived their challenges. They come out from the other side stronger for what they had been through. I had made a difference. I was just one old woman in a big cold city, but I was part of something bigger too. That was all the proof I needed. That was the end of this chapter. Please stay tuned for the next one. Welcome back to the 13th chapter for the book Just Gone by William Kowalski. May I just repeat again that this book is almost over, and I hope you've enjoyed your journey with me. I'm also reading this book for the first time, as you are. So, if you want these clear and clean experiences, I recommend checking out the other books that we have available from the Golden Oaks nominees on our website. So let us begin. Little by little, I began to feel strong again. The doctor told me that the surgery was a success. The sickness was gone from my body. It might come back someday, he said. None of us live forever. He told me to take it easy. But I knew better. I had made a promise to the higher power that if I was given any more time on this earth, I would continue to work for the children. And that's just what I did. The shelter was rebuilt soon after the fire, and I go back every day. No sitting around the apartment for me. I am needed. I comfort the women who are hurt, and I feed the children who are hungry. I have a new helper too. Sergeant Kozinski isn't a helper anymore. Isn't a correction? Sergeant Kozinski is not a sergeant anymore. He retired from the police force. Now he's just plain old Tom. And he is here every morning, rain, shine, ready to help. Retirement's no good for someone like him, like he says. He has to keep busy, or he'll just get old. Tom is a lot like me. He's never had time to get married or raise a family of his own. His work always came first. He chose a different path in life from mine. He decided the best way to fight the good was on the street, but we both ended up in the same place. There are many paths, but there is only one way. You ought to feel lucky, I tell him. We don't usually allow men in here, just the good ones. Tom is sitting on the floor. He has a child on his lap. There's several more sitting around him. He's reading to them from a book. He knows I'm just teasing him. Now that he doesn't wear his uniform anymore, his sense of humor is stronger. He looks up at me and smiles. I do feel lucky, he says. Sometimes the kids gather in the play area. I can hear them telling stories to each other. The story of Jackie Wacky is one of their favorites. After all this time, the story has changed little by little, as stories do. Sometimes Jackie Wacky drives a big truck and he uses it to take out all the gangbangers away to jail. Other times he runs a restaurant where kids can go and eat wherever they want. Ice cream, roasted chicken, hamburgers and fries, all free. One thing hasn't changed though. Jackie Wacky still wears raggedy clothes and a big floppy hat. He still carries two suitcases, one black, one white, and he still punishes the adults who are bad to children. Tom shakes his head at this. Where do they come up with these stories? He says. Children will be children, I say. They live in a scary world. They have to find some way to make sense of it. If only there was a real Jackie Wacky, Tom said. It would have made my job a lot easier. There's always some truth to every story, I tell him. I know better than to say too much about what I know to be real. Tom is still a practical, nonsense man. I could tell him that his job might have been a lot harder if Jackie Wacky wasn't real. We know how things might have been. We know the way they are. But I don't want to confuse him. You should let me walk you home later, Mother, Tom says. It's not very safe. You wandering the streets at night. I never said you couldn't, Tom said. I'm just saying you might be safer with me. So you can play the hero, I say. What are you gonna do? Beat up anyone who crosses my path? I still got it, Tom says, flexing his arms and winking. Listen to you two, said Linda May. You sound like an old married couple. Now that'll be the day, I said, and Tom just laughs. That was the end of the chapter 13, and I will come up with chapter 14 later. Welcome back, everybody, to chapter 14's reading, and let us begin. We're almost at the end. This is, I believe, the second last chapter. Fact is, sometimes I'm scared to walk home by myself, but I am used to living with fear, as one of the ways I stay strong is to never give in. The city is just as dangerous as it always was. Boys still join gangs before they're old enough to shave. Girls still get pregnant when they're practically babies themselves. The leader of the cities keep making promises. They say things will get better if only we give them power. Then they get elected and nothing changes. If anything, things have gotten worse. I don't blame the politicians for causing the crime, but crime comes from poverty and no one has done anything about that. I like to say that the sight of a little old woman walking by herself gives some people strength, but but maybe some look at me and think, if she's not afraid, then neither am I. Sometimes the best way to teach people is by example. All these politicians, with their promises, still don't understand one thing. If mothers and children of the world are safe, then everyone's safe. It all starts there. I would like to see them quit making their fancy speeches and come down to my shelter. I would like to see them sit with the children on their laps and read them a book. Better yet, I would like to feed these politicians a bologna sandwich and a bag of chips. And what if I told them that that was all they were allowed to eat that day? Would they understand then? It's the end of another day at the shelter. I let Linda May work nights because I get tired easily. I didn't think that will change as I get older, but I feel stronger than I did when the sickness was inside me. I'm walking home down a dark alley. Half the street I still aren't working. My eyesight's gotten worse. Up hurried, I see several dark shapes. That doesn't scare me. Everything looks like dark shape these days. But I smell danger. I straighten my back and hold my head high. I grab my purse and hold it close. The dark shapes stop. They make a circle around me. Let's see what you got in that purse, old lady, one of them says. I feel strong, young hands trying to rip it away from me. Too late. I think I should have taken Tom up on his offer. Stop it, you boys, I said. I hear the sound of a knife being flipped open. My purse strap is cut. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, I say. I felt close to tears, but I couldn't see their faces. They wore hoods that hang down in front, so I couldn't identify them. Then something changes. I can't say what it is. The air feels different. Someone else is here. They all stop and look around. Who's that? One of them asks. I look around. He appeared out of nowhere. I can't see him very well, but I recognize his outline. He wears a big floppy hat. He's carrying around what looks like two suitcases. He sets down one slowly on the side bag. Then he stares at the young man who surrounds me. What you got in them bags? One of them young men says. He's trying to sound brave, but I can tell he's scared. I began to laugh. What in those bags is your destiny, I tell them. It's your future. You can choose right now, but if you open to the black one, you boys are in trouble. The next thing I hear is pounding of the feet on the pavement. They've run away. Now it's just me and him. And we stand there. A street light flickers overhead. A pool of light spills down and catches us both. His face is still hidden, but I can tell he's looking at me. I've been waiting a long time to meet you, I say. He doesn't say anything. You know who I am, I ask. He remains silent. Maybe this time, I said. Maybe you're the angel of death. You gonna open that black suitcase for me? Is it time for me to go? Slowly he bends down and picks up the suitcases. He turns and begins to walk away. So tonight is not my night. Amgwa Excuse me, I cannot pronounce his name. M. Kwan, I call him after him. He stops. He does not turn around. He just waits. I knew your Uncle Jamal, I said. I knew him when he was just a little boy. Nothing. I looked at his back. So I was right, I said. If it gets passed down from one to the next, doesn't it? Not father to son, man to boy. You're out there looking for the next one, right? He turns and looks at me. I can see the outline of his face in the light. How do you do it, boy? I ask him. What's the secret of your power? That's the one thing I've always wanted to know. How do you know where to be? How do you know what makes it happen? There's still no answer. He looks for a moment into the night sky. I follow his gaze. There's nothing to see. The lights of the city reflect off the cloud. From here, they look like a belly of some great beast hovering all over us. When I look down again, he's gone. So it's not for me to know. That's okay. I can live with that. I think I had my answer anyway. I kept on towards home. I never felt alone. Maybe that's because fate kept me strong, or because the man in the floppy hat was with me all these years, and I didn't even know it. It's late, I'm tired. I make myself a cup of tea before I go to bed. I lie down and wait for sleep to come. The one thing about dying that always bothered me before was the children would be left alone. There would be no one left to look after them. But I can see now that that isn't true. He's out there, fighting the good fight, doing the right thing. He is not just a man, he's a force of nature. So there's some good in the world. When I'm gone, the fight will continue. There's at least one man who can make sure it never stops. So, that was the end of the novel, which is very interesting. So, I will read the small phrase provided right here. So, William Kowalski's first novel was an international bestseller and has been translated into a dozen languages. Just Gone is his fourth title in the Rapid Read series. Kowalski is a full-time writer, husband, and father. He's also a part-time independent adult education consultant specializing in designing and delivering curricula to adults who are unemployed, undereducated, and struggling to survive. He lives in Nova Scotia. So everybody, that was the story. I hope you enjoyed the experience. It was quite exhilarating for me. And then you should be able to read the rest of the books with their accompanying audio recordings available on our website, reading program for ESL adults. And I hope you enjoyed this video. It put a lot of work into it. Thank you. Okay, it's not a video, but more like an audio recording. Thank you. And I guess my friends who are also part of this website will see you later.